Hi, Junior with today's thought. But before we get to today's thought, just very briefly, some breaking news that just came in just a few minutes ago. I'm recording this at 11 a.m. on Friday, so you're seeing it on Monday. You may know about this already, but maybe not, because it's not the kind of thing that if you get your news from watching the three networks or the mainstream media, you might miss this, but it is potentially important. It has to do with Maine. Well, it has to do with control of the Senate. That's what it really has to do with. And Larry Hogan was the governor of Maryland. Republican governor of Maryland, and Maryland is a pretty blue state. So he is a moderate Republican, but a Republican nonetheless. He left office just last year, and he left with a 77% approval rating, and it won't surprise you. Well, there's an open Senate seat. Ben Cardin, he's a Democrat, the Democrat senator from Maryland, one of the two, obviously. He is leaving office, so it's an open seat, and the Republicans have been falling all over themselves to get Larry Hogan to run for obvious reasons, that he's very popular in the state and he could win, and it's an open seat, so he's not would not be running against an incumbent. Hogan has been resisting, not wanting to do it, and he has floated the idea of running on the no labels, with the No Labels Party, a third-party candidacy. But it looks like the Republicans finally convinced him, and he just announced that he's running. He's running for Senate in Maryland, and one of his rationales for running is that there's too much partisanship, and we have to get along. And he's a moderate. That's exactly the right message for a state like Maine. So there's a good chance, but there are already vulnerable Senate seats on the Democrat side, and there's only one. Well, it's one or two. If Trump wins, then the Republicans only need one more Republican senator, because you'll have a Republican vice president who could break ties. If Trump loses, then the Senate would need two. The Republicans would need two, but that would stymie in a lot of ways. Well, for instance, approving radical left-wing judges, that would be out the window. So this is it puts the Republicans much closer to taking the Senate, and this is this is really flipping a seat. Maryland has not had a Republican senator in 37 years, so this would truly be historic also. But anyways, okay, so breaking news, wanted to get that out. Now, on to today's thought, which is a Joe Biden dementia update. And this is one, I say dementia update, and I'm kind of being, humorous, I guess, channeling my inner Rush Limbaugh, but it's really getting serious from the videos that you're about to see. So a couple of short videos, but he, as you must know by now, Robert Hur, the special counsel investigating Biden for willfully retaining classified documents, decided not to prosecute Joe Biden, which creates this whole double standard issue, because Trump is still being prosecuted for doing what Biden did. That's another subject. We may discuss that later, but so many people are discussing it already, so I may not, weigh in on it. But but he has. The problem is that the reason that Hur decided not to prosecute is, you've probably heard this term already, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. That is, he's saying that a jury would not convict him because they would have sympathy for him. It would be, what he specifically said, if you read the actual report, is that the jury would go out of its way to find a way not to convict him, because they would view him as an elderly, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, like me sometimes. But I'm not as bad. Well, I don't know. Keep watching these vlogs, and maybe I'll enter Biden territory. But I'm not there yet. The point is, though, that that's why he's not prosecuting him, because he's not mentally well. Number one, he's not mentally fit to stand trial. That's basically what he's saying. But also, you have to keep in mind that there's no way he would get a conviction, because if he the documents were found in Delaware, so I'm assuming that he would be Biden would be prosecuted, would be tried in Delaware, where he's been the senator, I guess a popular senator for decades, decades and decades and decades. So I doubt you'd find, depending how, even if Biden were mentally fit to stand trial, then I would expect that the jury would go out of its way not to convict him. That you would have trouble getting a unanimous jury, for the same reason that you would probably have trouble if Trump were on trial in Delaware. You'd have trouble finding a jury where even one juror would find Trump not guilty, regardless of what the charge is. So the other alternative is that Biden would be tried in Washington, D.C., because that's where the documents were. That's where he got the documents. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know which venue would be the venue, but try to find a Washington D.C. jury that would convict Joe Biden, and good luck with that. So that may be part of her thinking, but still, he did retain the document. So there's a kind of a double standard there. But as I said, I don't want to get off on that. What I want to get off on is what people have said. Many people have asked if Joe Biden is not mentally fit to stand trial, how is he mentally fit to carry out the duties of President of the United States? It's an obvious question, and the press is starting to it's getting to the point where it can't be ignored. I mean, now you have it in black and white from a special counsel. This is not some attack by a GOP operative. So the press, you're going to see some questioning. What I'm going to show you is Biden in action. He held a press conference shortly after the report, special counsel report was issued. So he went out to defend himself and say the report is wrong. I'm mentally fine. My memory is fine. And it was a disaster. Which is there's another speculative process going on here. I should digress to this for a second, because Biden had. Whoever's really running the country right now, or his handlers, or the Obama holdovers in the Oval Office, they have been doing everything to keep him from speaking extemporaneously in public, because he has these gaffes and memory lapses all the time. But nobody stopped him this time, and you're starting to see these gaffes, these public statements where he screws up more and more often. So the theory is that, first of all, he is the President of the United States, and they could say, well, we don't want you to go out and speak, but if he wants to speak, he's the president, he can do it. But one of these theories going around, and I'm not weighing in one way or the other, I report, you decide, is that the theory is that they want him to go out and speak more often to make his mental deterioration more obvious and more just harder to deny, in order to get, now people are floating the idea of the 25th Amendment, to to get him out of office, to get him not to, well, ideally not to run again, not to resign now because Kamala Harris becomes president, and well, let's not go off on that track. But the theory is that they want him to speak more often in public, extemporaneously, because it makes his decline more obvious, and it makes it more obvious, more likely that he can be forced to or convinced at least not to run for a second term. So that's a theory, and the other one is to apply the 25th Amendment. And good luck on that. I've read the 25th Amendment, and there's this idea that the cabinet can just say, declare him mentally incompetent or whatever, just not able to carry out the duties of the presidency, and then boom, he's out. That's not true. That's not true. It has to be a majority of the cabinet and the vice president, number one. Number two, within I think it's 4 days, the president is able to countermand that, to say, I'm fine. Because the idea would be, they were talking about mental problems when they drafted this amendment. I'm pretty sure it was that he would be disabled. He'd be in a coma or something, and he couldn't speak or do anything, and then within 4 days, if he comes out of the coma and says, I'm fine, I can resume my duties, then he becomes president again. He resumes his duties. But the same thing, Biden is obviously easily capable if the cabinet and the majority of the cabinet and the vice president said, he's not fit to be the president. He can within 4 days say, yes, I am, and that would end it for then. Then there would be a further step. Then the cabinet and the vice president would have to say again that he's not fit to be president. But then it would go to Congress to debate the issue, and Congress would have to decide. So you see, well, first of all, then you would need, I don't have the amendment in front of me, so I don't know the vote. And actually that 4-day deadline that I mentioned, I don't know if that applies to the president saying he can resume his duties, or to the cabinet making a second determination. So I could be wrong on that. But the point is that it's potentially a long process, and then by the time that process goes through, we could be into the election or within a month or two away from it. So there's no hope there, in my opinion, assuming that the cabinet and the vice president would even go along. So Kamala Harris might go along because it takes her, gives her a step towards the presidency without having to win an election. Because if she had to win an election, no way she would be president. Anyway, I've spoken long enough. I want to show you a couple of videos here. This is just to give you a comparison. Now, the first one is Donald Trump. So it's just a minute or so of Donald Trump, and this is so you can be able to compare Biden to Trump as far as mental acuity goes. So first, here is Donald Trump speaking just yesterday, the day after or the same day as the Supreme Court argument about Colorado Supreme Court decision to take him off the ballot. So here he is speaking on that. So very recent tape of Donald Trump.
I'm a believer in our country, and I'm a believer in the Supreme Court. I listened today, and I thought our arguments were very, very strong. An argument that is very important is the fact that you're leading in every race, you're leading in every state, you're leading in the country against both Republican and Democrat. And Biden, you're leading in the country by a lot. And can you take the person that's leading everywhere and say, hey, we're not going to let you run? I think that's pretty tough to do, but I'm leaving it up to the Supreme Court.
That was Donald Trump. And now Joe Biden speaking virtually, for all practical purposes, at about the same time, speaking yesterday evening, the evening before I'm recording this, which would be Thursday evening. And here he is talking about, let's just let him talk. Here he is.
The conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side.
I don't know how anybody can deny the difference between in mental alertness and just physical robustness between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, or deny the obvious deterioration of Joe Biden. This guy, and you just heard him, he just, this is the latest time where he gets the latest example of getting world leaders mixed up. He just named the president of Egypt, al-Sisi, as the president of Mexico. But before that, he said he had talked about speaking with Mitterrand, who died, I think, in 2017, former president of France, who was dead. And that's not the first time that he well, I don't want to get off on make this any longer than it has to be. It's a pretty long thought today, but the deterioration is just so obvious in Biden. And how can anybody think that he could be president for 5 more years, another year of the current term, and then 4 years of, God help us, or God forbid, a second term? So if Biden somehow pulls it out and wins, what you're really looking at is a Kamala Harris presidency. And well, chew on that for a while. And thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.